Okay, so welcome everyone, and we are going to be discussing in this afternoon's session our financial planning and analysis using Power BI and the amazing Power On solution from Insight Software. Before we start, just make you aware that we will be recording this session and it will be made available to you after the session, so you'll receive an email from us with the recording so that you can distribute it to others or obviously rewatch it yourself if you wish to do so. Also, just to let you know that the session is muted, so you're unable to speak, but what you can do, should you have any questions, is to pose them in the question option on the right-hand side or at the top of the screen. You've got the little question icon that you can click on to pose any questions that arise, and we'll try and deal with those either during the session or at the end, whichever is most appropriate. Let me just start off with an introduction to myself. So my name is Scott Davies. I'm a senior data analyst and Power BI expert at Climber, and focusing very much on Microsoft Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, and the Microsoft Stack. I'm also joined this afternoon by my colleague from Insight Software, Greg Sinker. Greg is a Power BI expert and highly skilled in the use of the Power On solution. Greg has a master's degree in finance and economics and is the lead BI solution developer at Insight Software. All right, just a little bit about Climber and some of the features and solutions that we offer to our customers. There are 5 legs that we offer. First being our strategic advisory, where we help customers plan their BI journey, get them going in the right direction, often the most difficult part of the whole thing. Once the customers have decided what the solution is they want to implement, we assist in the solution development process so we can build and develop the solution with the customer's input. We also offer user training where we can train on Click, Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, online, face-to-face, whichever is preferred. We have our infrastructure services where we can host either on the cloud, on premises, or a hybrid solution for customers. And finally, our dedicated support leg where we can offer support and help to customers for all of their BI requirements. All right. I wanted to just talk about the FP&A process and the experience of using FP&A. So I remember when I worked back in the day at one of the large banks, the FP&A process was a bit of a nightmare. Whenever it came around, there was this panic throughout the bank, running backwards and forwards, emails being sent here, there, and everywhere, and people accusing each other of being optimistic or pessimistic, as whichever the case was, in terms of their projections and expectations for the forthcoming year. You know, there was this headache of managing all of these different versions of spreadsheets, you know, different departments trying to collaborate as best they could. You know, as you can see, as this slide highlights, that process was fraught with problems, fraught with difficulties, and really ended up with a projection for the forthcoming year that really was probably largely fantasy and not very well based in reality. So what we want to try and offer customers is a meaningful way to streamline that FP&A process through Power BI. And as many of you know, Power BI is generally speaking more of a consumption type of tool. So in other words, you view the data. There's not really an ability to interact with that data. Yes, you've got slices and things like that, but I'm talking about the ability to actually change figures inside of a Power BI report. Now with Power On, you have the ability to write back directly into your dashboards. So this means that you can do your performance forecasting, budgeting, and scenario planning directly inside of Power BI. So you've got one tool that you interact with. Everything is done within that one tool. It replaces all these manual spreadsheets that I mentioned a moment ago. It gives you full auditing. It's a user-friendly and audit-friendly process. It's fully governed. It's secure. It gives our users an intuitive interface because, as Greg will demonstrate shortly, the interface that you get to use inside of Power On is very Excel-like. So if you're comfortable with Excel, as most business users are, then you're going to find that Power On is a solution or a feature that you take to like a duck to water. And this allows for us to get our FP&A planning done quicker, more accurately, based on reality, as opposed to this kind of fantasy that ends up being produced in many instances with the kind of current processes that many businesses use. And of course, we remember the old chestnut that what is measured is managed. So if we can do this process more effectively, it's just a crucial part of managing a modern business in the right way. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Greg to take us through a demo of the solution, and he's going to show you how Power On converts Power BI into this hybrid best of both, where you get Power BI's amazing visualizations features, but also Excel features as well, giving us a best of both view of our data. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Greg. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Scott. Hi, everyone. My name is Greg, and in the following few minutes, I will show you a demo of Power On. So let me share my screen, and as I can see, it is visible, and let me pin this, and now you will see it in bigger screen. So as Scott mentioned, Power On is a tool with which you can do budgeting and planning, and by the way, many other use cases as well within Power BI, right? So as you can see, I'm within a Power BI workspace, and in the following few minutes, I will show you the functionalities of this tool, how you can do budgeting and planning with this tool. As you can see here, we also have some admin settings. I will cover that at the end of the session. And for now, we will focus on the end user functionalities. So basically how to do planning and how to input the data with this tool. So without further ado, let me go here to view open plans. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask that anytime in the chat, and we will try to answer those as soon as possible. So now we are at the view open plans screen. And as you can see, we have one budget version open for planning. We will also do forecasting. I will show you how we can create a forecast version, but now we will start with the budget. So let me click here to view open planning template. And here within this pop-up, we will go ahead and select the version. So let me select this budget, and we will select the template as well. As you can see, we have OPEX, revenue, and salary configured at the moment. So let me start with the OPEX planning, and let me also filter for, let's say, Denmark, and let me select the marketing and advertising cost center, right? So pretty much here I'm selecting whatever I would like to plan by. And what is also really important to emphasize, that obviously this is taking into consideration security and permissions. So if I don't have permissions for Denmark, then I will not be able to see that in this drop-down. I will show you also later on how we can configure the security and the permissions, but for now, let me just open this template. And as you can see here, we have 2025 selected, and we have this input screen where I can see my data by country, code center, and account. And we can see the data from January to December. And basically what I can do here is to input my budget data or adjust my budget data, right? Because in this case, what we did is created our budget as a copy of last year's actual, but I may want to do some adjustments to this, changes to 150, and hit save changes, right? And what is quite powerful, that obviously if I don't want to change this one by one, I can even copy the data, right? So it is really like an Excel like look and feel, and very, very easily and quickly I can copy the data. If I wish, I can even copy the data straight from Excel. So you can see I have some randomly generated data here in my Excel sheet. I just go ahead, Control C, and I can so quickly and easily Control V, so input the data here into the Power On input screen, right? So this is really the core of the application, the ability to input this data.
Greg, sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to ask you, does the tool have the ability to do spreading instead of manually inputting the information?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. That's an excellent question. Actually, I was just about to show that. So let me set here, for example, 300,000, right? And then I will select the spread method, basically maybe based on last year's actual. And I'm adding a comment as well, adjusted to 300K. And I will hit save changes. And then this will immediately spread the data based on the proportions of last year's actual, right? So you can see that we set this to 300,000 and that was spread to the underlying values. I can even...
So Greg, those figures that are being shown now are essentially in the same ratios or proportions compared to last year, but using the figure of 300,000.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah,
100%.
that's amazing.
Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, I can also do this in bulk, right? So I can go ahead, copy, select all this, maybe this time spread that equally, and then it will spread the data equally for those items. And what is also quite powerful, let me go here to the settings and select here a reference data last year's actual, right? And then you will see, if I go to the right, here it is showing last year's actual. So I can also use formulas, maybe like last year's actual multiplied by 1.1, right? Then I will just pull down these formulas, select the spread method to spread that by last year's actual, and that's pretty much it, right? So that way, I'm showing here the reference value, which is last year's actual. I was using here a formula to multiply last year's actual by 1.1 and then spread that based on last year's actual. And you can see that here it was spread immediately to the underlying data. Did I answer your question, Scott, with that?
Absolutely, yes, Greg. And I just wanted to be clear that, I mean, just for the audience watching right now, I mean, this looks and feels very much like Excel, but this is the Power On solution inside of Power BI. So just to be, just to be clear that this is not Excel, this is Power On inside of Power BI. So even though it looks like Excel.
Exactly, and to emphasize or to further elaborate on that, whatever I'm inputting, this is written back to a database, right? In this particular example, this is an SQL database into which we are writing back the data, but Powron in general can write back to other databases as well, for example, to Fabric or Snowflake. And due to the fact that this is not Excel, just Excel-like, it is writing back to a database, we can also do, for example, tracking the logs. So you can see here, I can see when I was added that comment, where I can see all the changes which I was doing to the data. Those are all tracked in the audit trail of the SQL database, which is behind that. And you know, what is also very, very powerful, that whatever I was inputting here is immediately available in analytics. So I can just go here, select budget, select maybe here summary by GL account, and then you can see that immediately what I was inputting on the previous screen for my budget 2025, that is immediately reflected here on this year-to-date chart here by GL account, and so on and so forth. And of course, this is interactive. I mean, this is Power BI, so Power BI is interactive. I can click on this one or filter on the utilities, and you can see that this year-to-date chart is immediately reflecting those changes. So that is what is really, really powerful with PowerOn, that whatever we input here, that is immediately reflected in analytics. So that's quite
Yeah,
powerful.
amazing, amazing.
And that being said, we were doing here the OPEX template. Now let me show you another template, for example, for revenue. And for revenue, let me select maybe a different cost center. And you can see that when I'm opening the revenue template, obviously I can see different accounts. So I can see here my revenue accounts, product sales, service revenue, subscription revenue, etc., etc. The template is quite similar, and I have here the ability to input my data. Similarly, I can input here manually, or I can use this spreading as well. If I wish to spread, then I can just do that accordingly. And besides the planning of revenue or sales and expenses, it is also quite common to plan salary. So let me show you that. We will select here the salary template. And what you will see that this is not editable here because this is calculated. So we will need to open the salary template for that, right? Let me just go here to the salary template. And in case, in this example, we have the salary template, and this is again 100% customizable. So this is just an example in terms of base salary, headcount, average salary, etc., etc. But if you would like to have different salary components, we can configure that. I mean, there is an admin screen for that where this can be configured. So for now, let me just set base salary to 300,000. We are planning in Danish krona, by the way, see, because we have Denmark selected. 200,000. Then let's say the headcount is 10. Then let's say that the salary increase percentage is 0% and we have a 5% increase in August. Then annual bonus percentage, let's say that is 12%. And then we have a bonus adjustment in December, because let's say we have a one-time bonus in December. Then here is the new hire, let's say that is 0, and we have, oops, was auto incrementing that, and let's say that we have 2 new hires here, so I will just add their salary. And then finally these pension and social, these are different tax rates, so let me just input here these as well, right? So quickly and easily I can input these different salary components. But as you can see, we have some calculated items. So when I hit save, the application will automatically calculate the different calculated salary components, such as the pension and social. These are different tax rates which are paid based on the salary. So that is calculated here. And you can see the overall salary is this 3.6 million. And if I go back to the previous screen, you will see that this salary, which I was inputting on the salary input template, is automatically mapped to these GL accounts, right? So you can see altogether this 3.6 million is automatically here, and this was mapped against the salary and wages, bonus and overtime pay GL accounts, right? So basically, instead of me manually inputting here salary, wages, bonus and overtime pay, I'm inputting that in a sub module where all these salary details and salary components can be inputted. And this is pretty much what I wanted to show in terms of the budgeting. So now let's go to the forecasting, or not sure, Scott, you have any questions before we go to the forecasting?
Yeah, there was just one question, Greg. I noticed that on the salary thing that there was a bit of some kind of ticks and crosses just to show whether there were the valid entry. So there's some kind of
Yep.
back of the system checking to make sure that the inputs are valid and so on and so forth. So that's great as
Yeah,
well, making sure you don't miss things out.
exactly. So it is not allowing me to save if I have any blank values, right? Because
Yeah,
here I need to explicitly define the set headcount salary. I cannot just leave that as blank. So those sort of validations are also implemented in the application.
yeah, fantastic.
Right, thanks for the question. Now let's do some forecasting. And that is obviously an admin functionality, because I mean to create a forecast version, because we don't want every user to be able to create a version. So now I'm having the hat of an admin, and I will go to manage versions. And by the way, yeah, you can see here is our budget version. Now we will create a new version, and this version will be our forecast 3+9, and the version period is 4. That means that the first period will be period 4, which is editable, and we will copy that from our budget. So you can see so quickly and easily I can create a new version, a new forecast version. And now if I go back to the planning, you can see that this new forecast version is available here. So we will open the planning template, select here forecast, and let's just go to the OPEX and hit select. And what you can see here is the first 3 periods. Those are actual, right? So those are not editable. And then here we have the next 9 periods which are the forecast, those are editable, right? And basically the data input is pretty much the same as for budget, except that I cannot change January, February, and March. But I can just go ahead and edit all the rest, just like that. And that way I can input my forecast. Or I can still use here the spreading as well. But of course, if I input here, for example, 750,000, select the spreading equally, this will spread that only on the open periods, right? So obviously it will not change the actual data. It will only spread that on the open periods, so that we end up with 750,000, and that was spread only on April to December. What is also quite powerful that now probably I want to compare that with my budget. So let me just go here, select budget, and then I will be immediately able to compare my forecast with my budget, right? So you can see here the difference between my actualized forecast and my budget, and you can see that the difference is calculated immediately. And if I would like to further analyze that, then I can just go to analytics and compare my forecast with my budget, just like that. And then you can see here a chart. Maybe I filter on training and development, and then we can see the details. I mean, this is now a year-to-date chart, but of course I can also do that in a month-to-date basis, and then see what changes were done to my budget versus to my actualized forecast. So again, the key message here is this flexibility which we offer for editing the data and then immediately reflecting these in analytics, right? And yeah, that's also a quite powerful capability.
Yeah.
So now this was the forecasting, but after the data is inputted, obviously we would like to close and approve that version at a certain point. So let me show you that as well. I will select the budget and then go to manage approval. And the approval, in this instance, the approval is by the different plans. So what I will do, I will select here Copenhagen and select submit, add the command, please approve, and hit save changes. And then it will move that immediately to submitted status. And then, you know, this is just a demo, so I'm a submitter and an approver at the same time, but obviously in a real use case, that would be a different persona. So now I'm also able to approve that and add the command, right? So I'm just approving this Copenhagen plant. And now, once this is approved, if we go back to the planning grid, you will see that it's not gonna be editable anymore. Let's see. And indeed, you can see here in the status column, we can see this little green checkbox, which means that this is in approved status and the grid is not editable anymore. You can see that is entirely grayed out. So what I'm just trying to say with that we can also drive here the workflow and restrict editability based on the status of the given version. And now let me go back, and here in the admin functionalities, an admin user can also completely close the version for planning, right? So here we have a flag, and that way I can completely close this budget version, so no more planning is allowed on that at all. And if I do so, you can see that this will not even show up anymore here in the view open plans. Obviously, I can still analyze my budget in the analytics screen, but I'm not able to see that anymore here in the view open plan screen. All right, so these were the end user functionalities in terms of inputting budget, doing spreading, analyzing the data, doing the forecasting, and then approving the different versions. And now I will show you a little bit around the admin functionalities. But before I do so, Scott, maybe any questions from your side, or do you think I covered everything?
No, I mean, I think that's been amazing to see those tools, and it just does look really so comprehensive. Greg, just one question that I have looking at all that. I mean, it looks very sophisticated. I mean, some of those, the fact that it locks certain things and so on, that looks really complicated to implement. Is that the case?
Yeah, so actually, this is an out-of-the-box template which we offer. And a few weeks ago, I was on site with a client, and we started the implementation at 8:30, and we completed at 11 a.m., right? So it took like 2.5 hours to set up, input the data, set up the permissions, load the data into the application, etc., etc. And
That's
with
amazing.
that, let me show you a little bit how the configuration works. So I will go to attributes, and you can see that under attributes we have country, cost center, and account. But now I will add an additional attribute called project, right? So easily and quickly I'm adding that. This is the admin screen. And then I will go to planning items. And under planning items, you will see that automatically this project column appears, right? We already have here country, cost center, and account. Obviously, if I wish, I can also bulk import the data into this grid. But for now, what I will do that for Sweden, we will add just some project codes here, just some auto incrementing randomly generated ones, just like that. And you will see that if I go back to our planning screen, let me select forecast, OPEX, and this was Stockholm, Sweden, and it was the marketing and advertising. And you will see that so quickly and easily the input template is adjusted. So now the users will see their data not just by country, cost center, account, but you can see these project codes as well. So that is hopefully helps to illustrate why it was so easy to implement this within 2.5 hours, because we just go into that admin screens, define these dimensions, and then upload the data, in this example, country, cost center, account, and project. And then so easily and quickly, I can then supply my forecast data, not just by country, cost center, and account, but now we have available the project as well, the project code on which we are doing the planning. So that makes it quite powerful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just to finish off that question, I mean, so it sounds like we've got some pre-configured templates which are configurable to make it customized for end
Mhm.
users, but that we also have the ability, should we need to do so, to kind of almost customize it right from the base up. So should a customer have
Yeah.
a very specialized requirement, that can also be done.
Yeah, 100%. So PowerOn is like a toolkit with which different applications can be built. It is a little bit like Power Apps. You can build also applications with Power Apps, but you can also download applications from the Microsoft Store for Power Apps. And that is the same with us as well. We are a toolkit with which applications can be built, but we also have these predefined templates, such as this quick planning template, which I'm showing you right now.
Amazing.
And with that, let me go back to the admin settings, and for example, let me show you permissions, right? So here I will filter on my user, and as you can see, I'm at editor, and now I can just revoke my permissions, for example, and that way I will not be able to edit Helsinki and Stockholm anymore, right? So that is also an admin screen where you are able to define who is a viewer, editor, or approver of the given entity. And by the way, of course, we can also define these entities, right? So if I would like to have a new entity, for example, London, on which I would like to enable the planning, I can quickly and easily add that and then define who should have access to plan on London. So here I can give myself edit and approve permissions for London. So that's also quite powerful in terms of maintaining the permissions. Obviously, this is under the admin module, so only admins are able to access that. But besides that, we also have some additional features. So if you would like to plan in multiple currencies, then you can define the FX rates. So let me filter on 2025 and let me filter on Swedish krona. And then I can define here the FX rates for Swedish krona. Maybe I can say that I assume that it will be 12, the FX rate will be 12 from period 7, right? So that way, quickly and easily, I can define the FX rates, and that way I enable planning in multi-currency. Besides this multi-currency setup, it is also quite interesting to maintain hierarchies. So let me just filter maybe on the cost center dimension, and then I can define here, for example, this is an admin, this is OPEX, and that way I can define the level 1 to level 10 hierarchies for my attributes, such as for the cost centers, you can see level 1 to level 10. Or maybe I would like to classify my GL account as well. These are the revenue accounts. These are the expense accounts. And so quickly and easily I can define these different hierarchy levels for my dimensions.
And these can,
And
of course, go through into the analytics, can't they? So you could actually have that
yes,
as a slicer or whatever in your analytics if
100%,
you
yes,
wanted to.
that is the idea that
Yeah.
you are planning on the GL account level, but you may want to aggregate the data on different aggregation levels, and that is where you can define the corresponding hierarchies for that. And finally, what I also wanted to show you, because probably we have some people from the UK as well, and as far as I know, in the UK, people are not planning from January to December, but from April to March, right? So I can define here this period shift. Let me hit save changes. Again, this is an admin setting, so not all the users will be able to define that. But now that I define that, and if I go back to the planning template, you will see that if I have 2025 selected, it will show the data from, as you can see, April to March, right? April to March. And by the way, I'm not able to edit that anymore because I just revoked my permissions. So probably let me select here a different entity for which I still have permissions, maybe for Oslo. Yep, let's see. Yeah, you can see here it is still from April to March, right? And the first 3 periods are not editable and the next 9 periods are editable. But now the input grid is showing from April to March. And even if I go to analytics, you will see here as well that we are showing the data from April up until March 2026, right? So from April 2025 to March
Yeah.
2026. So
So
quickly and
it
easily.
goes right the way through. I mean, goes right the way from
Yes.
your planning stage right the way through to the analytics, and it's just one click of it or one change on the admin back end, and it all
Yes.
flows through the entire solution.
Yes, 100%,
Yeah.
exactly. So that makes it really, really powerful. And
Mm.
with that, I think I covered everything which I wanted to show you. We started with the planning, the end user functionalities, and also a little bit around the admin functionalities. But of course, if you are interested, then we can go into more details. I mean, feel free to contact me or contact Scott, and then we are very happy to provide a more detailed demo in terms of the configuration or just in general other capabilities of PowerOn.
Brilliant,
So
Greg. That's super. That's really, really great. I'm just going to share my screen here. All right. So I don't know if there are any questions. Nobody's put any questions through on the chat. So no questions that came through. But I do have one or two questions, Greg, if you don't mind.
yeah, of
And
course.
obviously, if any other questions occur to folks attending, feel free to pop those into the questions thread. But in the meantime, while we wait, so there's obviously all this data going backwards and forwards. Where does this, where does this data being saved for? I mean, you did talk briefly about that earlier on. So where does it get saved to, and
Yeah.
how secure is our data?
Yeah. So it is saved in a database, but what is really important to emphasize that it's saved into your database, into the client's database. And even this PowerOn engine is installed into your environment. That means that the data storage, processing, transformation, etc., all happens within your environment. So PowerOn as a company or insightsoftware as a company is not even able to see your data because all this storage and transformation happens in the client's environment.
Brilliant, brilliant. Oh, that's amazing. Now, we've talked about Power On being used very much for an FP&A kind of application, but I mean, presumably we could use Power On for any kind of write-backs scenario. So, for example, commentary on reporting and so on and so forth, or other kinds of situations where you need this kind of
Yeah.
functionality.
Exactly. So we have users who are using Power On for KPI tracking, even for supply chain use cases, commentary on the data. ESG use cases are also quite common where data needs to be inputted and data needs to be visualized. You can visualize the data with Power BI, but you can easily and quickly create input templates with Power On. Either use one of our out-of-the-box templates, or you can just build input templates from scratch quickly and easily. That is really what we enable, the data collection and building of input templates within Power BI.
That's amazing. Yeah. So just such a fantastic solution. And I'm just blown away by, this transforming of Power BI from this consumption type of tool to this fully interactive tool. And I think that that's just an absolute game changer as far as Power BI is concerned. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic tool on its own right, but with Power on top, it just makes it into, it just gives it this fantastic new feature. And of course, what I also like is being an Excel, a person who loves Excel myself, I don't have to now learn a brand new tool. I can just use all my skills, my Excel skills, to interact with my data. So that's really great
Yeah.
too.
100%. And just to comment on that, I joined Power On more than 4 years ago, and when I first saw that, I was also amazed that this
Yeah,
really is a game changer. Like transforming Power BI into an application platform. Because normally Power BI is a BI platform, but with that we make it an application platform.
definitely. Yeah, fantastic. Greg, thanks. That's really been very informative, and hopefully people have found that interesting. Just to finish off, we've got a minute or so, or not even a minute left. We do have our forthcoming free and online Power BI training for beginners. This is a short 2-hour session, just giving people an overview of what Power BI can do. So feel free to check out our website for those seats. And as it says, that they are limited, so don't wait. And should anybody want to get more information about the Power On solution, please do feel free to reach out to us. My details are up on the screen. You can also get in touch with us via our website, climabi.co.uk. And yeah, reach out to us with any questions if you want more demos and so on and so forth. We're available and look forward to hearing from you with all of your FP&A and other Power On type application questions. Thanks very much for attending, everybody. And Greg, special thanks to you for your help today. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next session. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.